Now, every year I listen to stories from students where they've been scammed of thousands of dollars. They've also received threats of violence and even death threats. If you are a student who is going to embark on their master's or undergraduate journey in the US, continue to watch this video because I'm going to narrate an incident that happened to one of our students recently, and we are also going to tell you how you can avoid these scams and traps. Stay tuned. So let me begin talking to you about this specific incident that happened to a student in the US. This student had recently landed at a university and was just about settling in, getting used to the culture and of course getting a little intimidated by the new setting, right? This student gets a call from a particular number, and this number was very close to the types of numbers used by the university. They told the student that he had filled some document wrong with respect to address change and that the Department of Homeland Security will be contacting them soon. The scamster then cut the call. Sure enough, in under 5 minutes, there was another call received by the student with a number that again very closely reflects numbers used by the Department of Homeland Security, and there was a very stern sounding officer who spoke to the student. This officer told the student that he did not fill an address change form, and that was a major legal violation for the student. The seriousness of this so-called offense was also amplified, and the student was then threatened with deportation from the US. The call was then cut, leaving the student in confusion. Immediately, there was another call received from, again, the so-called university authorities. The university official then said that if the Department of Homeland Security gets in touch with the student again, then the student should talk sweetly and ask if there's any solution to this, like paying a fine. Sure enough, the call came back from the so-called Department of Homeland Security, and this officer sounded very stern again. Even the university officials stated that they cannot do anything because this became a legal government issue. And the Homeland Security officials apparently asked the student to pay a fine of $1,500 if he wants to get away. When the student questioned why this fine has to be paid, and also that there was no change in address, so the student is not liable for informing the department of the same, that's when the abuse started. The threats came through, and obviously the student, being new in the US, was very intimidated. In the course of this conversation, the caller also told the student to come and sit in a room with all personal documents like their passport, their I-20 and their social security number, and also told the student not to tell anybody else about this because it is a serious issue, and if the matter leaks, then deportation will be instant. Further threats also came through. The callers from the so-called Department of Homeland Security stated that the police was already on the way and an arrest warrant has been issued, but if the student agrees to pay the fine, then the entire situation could be averted. Now, of course, the student lost those $1,500, and $1,500 is over a lakh of Indian rupees, right? It's not a small amount. There are so many scams like this, not only with people posing as Department of Homeland Security, but also tax officials posing as representatives of the IRS, telling students that they've defrauded the government by not paying certain taxes applicable to international students. Some of these callers get abusive, they threaten violence, and they also drag family into the entire conversation, which really worries the students. To make the payment, the student received an encrypted link with a payment gateway which seemed official. Unfortunately, the student lost those $1,500 because the scamsters played on his fear. Now, before we are quick to jump onto judgment, understand that these students are in a foreign land. It's in a system that often intimidates them, and they are with the attitude that it's better to be safe than sorry and fall prey to this. But it is our duty to make sure that these scams are brought to light, and more students are aware of certain pitfalls they shouldn't fall into. So here are some tips to avoid these scams. First things first, understand that no US government agencies will call and threaten people over the phone. If anything, which is extremely rare for international students, it will be communicated through an official email ID. So if there is a call which has any sort of financial transactions linked to it, simply cut the call, don't encourage the conversation. Secondarily, even if you start to engage them in conversation, ask for specific details. Ask repeatedly about what department they're from, their name, and any other identification details. Now, even though a lot of scamsters can fake these documents and fake these IDs, it might put certain amateur scamsters off. Directly complying and listening to them without cross-questioning them is not a good idea. Point number 3. If you do cross-question them, there is a likelihood that these scamsters will start threatening you and abusing you. At this point, please cut the call and don't engage them in further conversation. Understand that no government officials or representatives will turn abusive over a call, and that is a direct red flag that this is a scam. Point number 4. Do not reveal any of your personal details to these scamsters at all. Not your SSNs, not your I-20 numbers, not your passport numbers. Just say that you're not comfortable sharing this over a call. Government officials will not ask for these details over the phone. Point number 5, and the most important way in which you can escape these scams. If you get such a call, the first thing you do before engaging any conversation is to approach your university authorities. Either call them or take a walk to the student services offices and then tell them that you received this call, and you will know whether these are genuine or not. In all likelihood, they're not, because such situations rarely occur for international students in the US. The US government and agencies are very welcoming to international candidates, and universities also understand that it's a very intimidating adjustment that you have to go through. Therefore, such activities will never be conducted by genuine organizations. Ask them, get things verified, and if you have any worries or fears, approach the university and they will help you out. Don't fall prey to these scams and don't let them prey on your fears. Now, such incidents have been happening for years now. Together, we can raise awareness so that our Indian brothers and sisters who are going to the US don't fall prey to such situations. I request you to share this video as far and wide as possible so that any of your relatives, friends, acquaintances, or somebody who you don't even know who's going to the US to study can escape these scams and stay safe. If you like this content, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And all the very best for your own master's journey.